Well, as we continue with the Friday edition of News and Views this morning, it's time now to take a look at the death penalty law that was passed in the Knesset, and we're talking about the enactment of this draconian new death penalty law for Palestinian political prisoners, and we've heard that they will face a death sentence by hanging. Joining us this morning is former parliamentary researcher for NUMSA and also a former political prisoner, Woody Aroun. Woody, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yes, obviously, you've written this piece talking about a grave injustice for Palestinians and talking about this new law, Woody, yet another Israeli onslaught against the Palestinian people and making Israel the first state since Nazi Germany to institute the death penalty for one race, but not another.
I just want to, look, I co-authored this article with Anna Weeks, who, and if you read the citation, Anna is, she's quite a seasoned journalist, and she spent 3 years in, with the international peace, the international peace groups in Palestine, but. This, coming back to the substance, this act, this absolutely horrific piece of legislation that the Israeli government has passed. It's very scary, and I think it's there's been a wave of international protest and condemnation, from European countries, the United Nations, and Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch. And it's a long list. But what we the issues, and I think the real issues is the power that this law gives. And this law puts a lot of power in the hands of military courts, and Palestinians convicted. Of killing Israelis can be tried and sentenced to death, and executed within 90 days without any recourse to appeal and so on. Also, the judges, they actually Israeli soldiers in uniform. They can make these. There's no consensus required. It's a simple majority. And I think the more discriminatory aspect of this whole law is the fact that it's targeting Palestinian prisoners, and not the Israeli settlers convicted of killing Palestinians. They get tried in the kind of civil courts, which are different. And but this court is specifically, at least this bill is specifically targeting Palestinian prisoners, right, who are convicted, and it's very arbitrary. It doesn't. There's no recourse, as I said, to appeal, and you get a death sentence. It's just a matter of, and that's simply what it does. It's passing the death sentence in a very arbitrary, fascist manner.
Well, Woody, this military court system, or I would rather call it an injustice system, because it's never ever been fair, it's never ever been just, and it's come under the radar. It's been under scrutiny for a very, very long time, and there is a history in terms of how the law is being applied in Palestine, and particularly against Palestinians, because when one looks at some of the statistics as well, the conviction rate for Palestinians has been something like around 96%. And you mentioned the civil court system that applies to Israelis as well. And there again, the conviction rate has been just over around 3%. So, when one looks at how this law is being applied, and again, coming to my initial question in terms of, how the law is being applied in putting one race at an advantage over another racial group as well. And this alone speaks volumes, Woody.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with that. I think it's not by nature or coincidence that this whole Israeli system has been described as the apartheid system, because there is just so much in common with the apartheid South Africa and the way it operates. Under apartheid South Africa, you had some of the most horrendous laws, uh, and trial without detention, torture, and so on. The South Africans used to use what was called Section 6 of the Terrorism Act. And of course, they had there were other legislation as well, where you could be detained indefinitely. There was a Section 10. There was also Section 10. So the similarities, so the similarities between Africa and Israel. So it's not as if someone's just pulling it out of the hat. Israel is an apartheid state. There's no question about that.
Well, certainly, Woody. And also, I think when the article speaks about judicial systems which are not neutral, they are ideological. And we see this ideology, this Zionist ideology featuring just so prominently because, again, it raises huge question marks when one talks about the rule of law and how it must actually align itself, and also in terms of international law and aligning itself with internationally recognized principles.
Yeah, it doesn't. There's absolutely no recognition for international law. The UN. I think it was 1948. The UN adoption of the Universal Declaration of Rights, and of course the ancillary legislation about human rights law and so on, and treaties and you had all these international human rights treaties as well. And this just flies in the face of everything. I mean, there's absolutely no respect for life. There is no respect for life. Right? It's just a barbaric act, and to reinforce Israeli domination and occupation of Palestinian territory.
Well, Woody, you also know what it means to be a political prisoner. And we know that there are thousands of Palestinians that are languishing in Israeli prisons at this point in time, including women and also children. And, just understanding what it means to be a political prisoner. And here we're talking of one of the most brutal prison systems that exist in the world at this point in time. What is expected of the world? What is expected even of the South African government, who has repeatedly been taking a strong stance against Israel and the atrocities they have been committing?
Yeah, look, that's a pretty good question, because I think if we just to reflect on this a bit, is that up to now what you've had UN resolutions, and you've had resolutions adopted by other countries as well, and positions taken. They're very, very passive. There hasn't been any sort of strong assertive action against Israel. They are continuing with complete impunity. Their allies are supporting them and providing them with the arms and the military. So the issue is glaringly it's glaringly it's racist, and I think it calls for more. It really calls for much more action. Now, if you take groups like the BDS and the Palestinian Solidarity Committee, which is here in South Africa, uh, what you will find is that they're actually calling on the South African government that, look, you've got to do more. Now, the South African government has done, and I think that's appreciated, the fact that they went to the International Court of Justice and that they lodged the case of genocide, and that's something that everybody applauds. It's a good move, and it came at the expense of their relations with other countries who felt that South Africa shouldn't have done that. But the thing is that's just one level. The question of the engaging of legal experts. The other side, and the other side of this, which is very important, is the fact that while the legal experts are busy with this, and that's good, is that we mustn't forget that the men, women, and children, Palestinian men, women, and children fighting in the trenches. Those are those are also the experts. You know, so we mustn't forget that, and that calls for more direct action against Israel, and that one way that can come is, I mean, and if we take the example of South Africa, was international campaigns to completely isolate the country in sport, economics. So there was a lot of pressure. Now that kind of pressure needs to be exerted on Israel. There's got to be a shift. It can't just hang there and rest on the foundation of that. Look, there's all these passive resolutions. There's got to be something more assertive. There's got to be something more direct. And I think the BDS have been calling. They've been campaigning. They've been calling on the South African government, the Glencore mining corporation, stop sending coal to Israel. It seems as if people separate trade and they separate sort of trade and policy. Oh, that's trade. The Palestinian issue is politics. But that's not the case. I mean, this is we're talking about human lives here, and we're talking about human value. So the fact that sometimes trade seems to take precedent over all these things, and it's just not on. I mean, we've got to have a principled stand. We've got to take a firm stand. You can't be bullied around. You can't play around also with your foreign policy. Where your voices are actually sometimes muted by countries that don't agree with your policy. You've got to be firm. You've got to stick by your principles. You've got to say to them that we're not accepting and we're not going to be bullied, especially being bullied by the U.S. We're not going to be bullied by you or anybody else for that matter.
Well, Woody, thank you very much for that, and also for taking time out with us this morning right here on Solar Media. All the best to you, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say something. A lot of credit must be given to Anna Weeks. I think she's done a splendid job. She's just pretty much in the forefront of the struggle. And I think the 3 years that she spent there, and she shared this experience, and she brought out this experience, especially those that when she talked about agent Israeli soldiers posing as agent. They actually pose as Palestinians. They actually incite violence to discredit the Palestinian cause. And I think this experience that she brought from there and shared with us is something that we must value. It's important that we actually begin to know this and understand, so that we get a much broader picture of what is really happening there.
Well, I'm hoping at some point in time we can, connect with Anna on a more detailed discussion, because we do have these detailed panel discussions as well. And I'm sure there's a lot of insight that she could share with us. We basically scratched the surfaces this morning, and I'm sure at some point in time we will try and get hold of Anna so that she can share those 3 years with us in depth as well, just to provide us with an understanding.
Oh, that would be excellent. Absolutely excellent. You must pursue that. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for having me on your show.
All the best to you. Have a good weekend. I know it's a long weekend, Woody. Take care.
Okay, you too, eh? Thanks. Bye.
Woody Aroun, former parliamentary researcher for NUMSA, and also a former political prisoner with us this morning. A quick break. We come back. We'll be joined in Juma Inspirations, Cape Town based Maulana Shafiq Nolan.